Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Transformational Life Coach who's been in practice now going on 12 years. So welcome. The topic today I was moved to create here is about out-of-body experiences and or near-death experiences. The reason I've chosen this topic for me is quite clear, but I'll explain. 13 years ago or so, I was in a near-death experience that involved a motorcycle. And here in Florida, where I am currently, happens to be what they call Bike Week. So an entourage of motorcyclists and enthusiasts come from all over the country and participate in antics and acts and collaborations within themselves that I have seen no value in, but different strokes for different folks, right? Anyway, it brings back to me the memories of what I experienced. And they're still here, believe it or not, here in Florida this week, hopefully to depart shortly, in a few days. And mind you, and this will make sense to you later in the podcast, there has been 2 to 3 deaths here in this county where this bike week is being held, and not caused by cars, but strictly via motorcycles and recklessness. So let's see, we're into the 5th day now of this event. 15 to 20 deaths so far. Needless deaths, I might add. I've watched them walking around, that too, but riding around without helmets on, without any protective gear. More often than not, they're somewhat intoxicated. It's a death wish. So let me go back now that I've set the stage for this podcast 13 years ago. And I was dating someone for some time who had gone out and purchased, well, actually it was quite beautiful for a motorcycle, but it was never been something that I wanted to do or loved to do. But it was a passion of my boyfriend at the time. And dating him a while, I wanted to participate, right? We share things, or we're supposed to. Anyway, forgive my pup here in the background if you hear him. So, that being said, he went out and purchased this, what looked to me to be like the Batmobile, and put quite a bit of money into it. So he asked me this particular morning if I wanted to go on a ride with him, and I honestly don't remember where to, but at the time I was feeling intuitively that I really didn't want to go. Now, here's something really important about this, as this podcast will lead into others based on the intuitive faculty, which is a very powerful gift that most of us have, and some of us have developed more so than others. So that's a topic for another day, but right here and right now, I want to tell you that when he asked me to go for a ride on this Batmobile motorcycle that morning, my intuition, we'll call it that, my higher self, um, messages from beyond, did not want me to go. And I was looking for excuses in my mind not to go. However, I ended up not paying enough attention, I'll say that. And we started off on the journey. Now, before I actually walked out the door that morning, I had asked him, backing up a little bit here, a week prior, to order a helmet for me because I was riding with him on a different motorcycle for quite some time without a helmet. And this, I suppose, looking back in retrospect, I had paid attention, and I asked him to order me a helmet. This was a week before. And I remember the expression on his face, like, and his words, like, why now? And I really didn't have a reason other than that's what I wanted. So, just by the stroke of luck, the helmet showed up just a day before we went on this ride. And I placed it on my head and we went off on the journey. Well, we were 10 minutes into this journey and I had a very powerful, I'll call it metaphysical experience. And you know, or you may not know, but motorcycles are quite loud no matter what. You know, whether you quiet them down or you don't, they just are. So I recall hearing what sounded to me like a massive amount of crows just screaming, cawing. And my first conscious thought was, how is that possible? And I looked up and it appeared to be a tornado of crows, ravens, one of the two, flying, circling above as we're moving on this motorcycle. Well, my dear listeners, that was the last conscious memory I have. I woke up on the pavement on a 6-lane, but just prior to that, I had an out-of-body experience. I recall looking down at my body and an entourage of people around it, wondering, my first conscious thought was, how am I able to see this? Honestly, that was the only and first conscious memory. Well, zip, I went back apparently into my body, and I opened my eyes, and I had seen what I had viewed from up above. An entourage of people standing around me, and blood, you know, I won't get into those details, but I was pretty much a mess. So it turned out that I had landed 30 yards away from the scene of this accident. And what had happened was my boyfriend at the time wasn't paying attention. This was in the morning, by the way. There were no drugs or alcohol involved. And he had slammed on the brakes to avoid hitting a truck that was in front of us. And he went down with the motorcycle, and I was ejected at 45 miles an hour and landed 30 yards away from the scene. So, back to Laura on the pavement. And the ambulance, here's another miracle, if you want to call it that. From what I was told, didn't have to be called in. It just happened to be there at that moment in time, empty. And they immediately scraped me up and loaded me up. And I remember I was in shock. And, you know, of course. And I had no idea really consciously what had happened. other than what I'm explaining to you today. And knowing what I know today about the subconscious mind, I was being protected, because had I consciously been able to recall that event in action, most likely I wouldn't be here talking to you today. So all that being said, I'm going to fast forward a little bit now. In the hospital, suffering from shock. They're giving me the wrong drugs, drugs that I was allergic to, and so on and so on and so on. And upon my getting back to the home space where I was recovering for, I believe it was 6 months, I couldn't walk, and I couldn't use the restroom by myself, obviously. Couldn't bathe. I had third-degree abrasions all over my body. And the doctors, Western medicine, at that time had said that they wanted to do several operations and put metal parts in my knee and my leg and so on and so on and so on, which I declined. And by the way, they sent me home with some pretty powerful meds, as it turns out, oxycodone and tranadols, which I didn't take. So you might ask me, well, why didn't you? I know you had to be in excruciating pain. And I was, every day for a long period of time. However, I know I needed my mind. I needed to focus, to put myself, if you will, back together again. I, at that time, had a very high state of awareness. Although was not familiar with hypnotherapy, it became that after the fact. So, yes, dear listeners, 6 months later, after lying there like a mummy, wrapped from head to toe, my wounds needed to be addressed 3 times a day, the healing was taking place. And I knew that, and I witnessed it, and I have photographs of it. So, that being said, I emerged months later, just like just the way I appeared, basically, before I had the accident. And, even today, talking about it, which is really the first time I'm talking about it in this detail, is pretty amazing. But what happened is I became my most powerful testimony. And thereafter, I'm going to fast forward again a little bit here. When I was able to walk about and actually start to walk properly, without any fumbling or limping and so forth, I was suffering from post-traumatic stress, and I didn't know that. No one knew that. It was just, I felt like I was going completely mad with certain triggers that would happen, even in a car, that really had nothing to do with the accident, but my unconscious mind was relating a moving vehicle to a warning, if you will. And so here we go again. And now the doctors, when I didn't really believe in them, but I was feeling confused. I didn't know what was happening after I was able to heal myself with the focused power of my unconscious mind day after day. So what is this now, I was thinking. And no one actually understood that that was a possibility. And it absolutely was. And they were wanting to give me, again, here we go, Xanax, and your blood pressure's up, and and you have anxiety. Yes, I did. And yes, it was. But it had nothing to do with anything except that memory of that event in my unconscious mind. So I'm going to jump a little bit further here and just say I was introduced to a hypnotherapist that was older and very wise, and he put that PTSD in check for me within 4 sessions, or maybe it was 5. Either way, no drugs involved, nothing like that. And so that set me on my path to what I do today and what I've been doing, and doing very well, I might say. I've helped so many people, and it's so rewarding to see that. And looking back again in retrospect, I never would have imagined that I would have overcome all of this the way I did, but to be my most powerful testimony to my clients to date. So my work isn't just about education, and I am multi-certified. It's about experience. That's the best teacher, right? Well, I hope you found this story interesting. It's certainly a true one. And I wish you all well. Please like and subscribe. There'll be more of these coming. And take good care for now. See you on the next one.